Hi everyone, I'm Ken from CryptoTradingKS. If you're new, welcome, and welcome back KS family. Let's run the numbers. Bitcoin currently down 0.45% to 44,018. Ethereum up 0.89% to 2966. From my 30 plus years inside financial markets, I explained the smart money mindset to assist you to be more of a financial blessing to yourself and those you love, gaining real wealth in the process. If you would like daily updates on price movements in the crypto market, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, please subscribe to YouTube. Thank you for being part of our extended global family. I appreciate you being here. If you're going through a life pullback at the moment, please know that our community's love and healing thoughts are with you. You're not alone. There's always hope, and the sun will come out again. There's a lot of global uncertainty at the moment, which makes it even more important to make 3 in advance probabilistic choices. Know what you will do if price goes down, goes up, or goes sideways. Don't just focus on price moving in only one direction. Have strategies if price moves in a direction that you weren't anticipating. That's what certified crypto technical analysts do. They scientifically track investor attention. We have a specific mindset. We look at the reality of price, not future promises, but we do things in a very scientific manner. We understand that we buy on the red and sell on the green, not necessarily buy on the red one day and sell on the green the next day. Not like that at all, because we mark up our charts with the CTKS methodology. Then we look at outside trends, we check world events, collect probabilities, understand investor behavior and investor attention globally. Then we do timing, we find the market's focus. We have a very specific mindset. We are in control of our emotions, but also we understand the very big difference between flashy and showy riches and very quiet wealth. It's only after this process that we look into buying and selling with various methodologies. Most people want to basically just buy and sell without any knowledge, and they wonder why their accounts get blown up and they lose all their money. This is why. After 30 plus years in the markets, if you don't do this process, you will unfortunately lose money. We now need to look at the outside world and collect probabilities. The first thing that we do is to understand the interplay between the various markets, the gold market, the cryptocurrency market, stocks and bonds. When we see bond prices increasing, this is meaning that basically people are worried. They're pulling their money out of stocks and crypto, putting them into bonds. It's a flight to safety. A flight to risk occurs when bond yields go up. So money comes out of the bond market, and you can see $124 trillion in the bond market. It's not a small market. We know that the cryptocurrency market is growing exponentially. It's at the very, very early stages of its adoption cycle. People are just starting to become aware of it, and what's happening all around the world is just bringing more and more awareness to it. The easiest way to actually understand these 8 charts is to just look at the particular thing that I put here, fear. This is the VIX, or volatility index. You can see fear has been making its way up. This is quite unusual to have such a big increase in fear. I used to trade the VIX, and the VIX is really, really spiky. It spikes up and then collapses down, spikes and collapses. What we're seeing here is an increase in fear. It's really unusual. Economic confidence, the NASDAQ 100. What is happening here to economic confidence? Is it going up or going down? What about fear? Is it going up or going down? What about the prospects of inflation, decreased profits, increased costs, as measured through oil? Is it going up or going down? Let me know in the comments what you think about this. This is a really good way for you to understand these macroeconomics. T-bonds, the futures, what is happening here with bond prices? This is all about economic concern. When bond prices rally, definitely right up the wall, we can see increased economic concern. What do you see happening with bond prices? What about bond yields? Bond yields and bond prices move inversely. When bond prices go down, bond yields go up. What are we seeing here? What do you see in this? Is this a risk-on activity or a risk-off activity? Gold is a measure of geopolitical risk. What is happening here with gold prices as they go increasingly up? They're not really retracing that much. What does this mean? These are really good things to talk about in the comments section on YouTube. What about the demand for US dollars? What are we seeing here? What does this mean? Smart money, institutions, look at these 8 charts with a very specific lens. They're always stacking probabilities. You can't just use one, you've got to use many. From what you see here, do the markets actually support higher prices just at the moment? Crypto technical analysts learn about all the rules that come to play when people lose money, make money, or keep money. One of the best things that you can ever do is to not buy on the green and sell on the red. You instead inverse that and go to zone 3 where you buy on the red and sell on the green. A lot of people, when they get into markets, they just don't want to do this. It feels so incredibly uncomfortable. They want certainty. They want to see they actually buy at one price and just instantly it goes up to a higher price. This is not how professionals work. Professionals, smart money, uses patience, they use rules, and they're very patient. They can wait a certain amount of time for things to go in their favor. And that's because they stack probabilities and they move away from certainty. A lot of people are addicted to certainty. That will only cause terror and sleepless nights. Being addicted to probability is the only way to go. When we stack probabilities, what do we see here? We can see the 5-year and 10-year break-even inflation rate just going up the wall, literally exponentially. We can link this to oil and also the global economic issues, macroeconomic issues that are playing out across Europe right now. We can also see the Nasdaq here in green. That's still very much under resistance. It's in a downtrend. It hasn't actually broken that yet. It is getting close, but it hasn't broken it as yet. We can also see the Fed balance sheet. The Fed balance sheet was 8.91 trillion. It's now 8.928 trillion. It keeps going up. Crypto technical analysts always look at the data. They need an objective verification of truth, and that's why we do this kind of analysis. We don't get addicted to the news, we just contextualize it. Many news commentators and politicians can talk about inflation and what they're doing to combat it, and it does need to be combated as well. We will see in the charts if their actions are effective or not. Rule 111, crowd psychology creates price. When people get into any financial market, they can see things going up and down and they just think, oh, that's price. That's independent of how people think. That's independent of fear and greed, optimism, hope, pessimism. It's not. Rule 111 says the crowd psychology creates price, and it absolutely does. Unfortunately, there is a lot of geopolitical risk out there, and we can see that gold's price has been absolutely soaring. Silver and gold, like a kind of a husband and wife scenario, they tend to like to hang out together, or you could call them best friends. So it's not surprising that we see silver and gold moving up together. We can also see Bitcoin starting to turn around. We can see Russia's market, the MOEX, is still closed. It's been closed for quite a few days now. Now, why is this? Why is Russia's market closed? Because if it was to open, it would sell off dramatically. People want their money. Why would it sell off? We've seen Russia's currency actually go down 30% on average globally across all major trading partners. You can just see it. Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, New Zealand dollar. You can see that for the year, the Russian ruble has been really, really badly hit. And against the US dollar, it's decreased nearly 36% over the past 12 months. And we can see that Russia's inflation is only getting started. This was in January 2022, before what happened with Ukraine. We've seen the Russian currency recently devalue by 30%. Can you imagine what these inflation numbers are going to be going forward? With the devaluation of Russia's currency, currently Bitcoin, Thai baht, Mexican peso are actually more valuable than the Russian ruble. And the MSCI says Russian markets are uninvestable, and indexes have been reclassified from emerging market status to standalone status. What happened to the Russian ruble and the Russian economy is Vladimir Putin decided to go to war with Ukraine. He decided to take all the 150,000 troops that he was saying it's just a military exercise and we're not invading anyone, and then he went ahead and invaded. The problem here is the global economy just turned around and said, hang on a sec, Vlad, that's not the right thing to do. So we're going to sanction you. We're going to cut you off from the global financial system. And that's what's caused the Russian ruble to fall in value. This is just a summary of news stories just for today. It doesn't include what we did yesterday. I'll cover these really quickly. Ryanair, the discount carrier and Europe's biggest airline by passengers, has suffered a 20% week-over-week drop in bookings. In previous episodes, we saw that the Russian people are doing a bank run. They're trying to get their money out of the banks. And in response to that, we've seen Russia's Sberbank, European banking subsidiaries, collapse as they tried to get their money out in response to sanctions leveled against Russia's largest bank. Austria's bank, Austria banking subsidiary of Sberbank, went into insolvency procedure. In Croatia, Russia's Sberbank was sold to Croatian Postbank. Slovenia's branch was sold to Nova, and the Czech Republic, Hungary, and the Baltics also were sold off. In the USA, LA-based Capital Group Companies Inc., one of the world's largest investment management companies with $2.4 trillion worth of assets, which is really well known for American fund mutual funds, has $4.55 billion worth of exposure to Russian sanctioned entities, and has $8.19 billion in exposure to Russia in its equity and fixed income funds. You can already see that this is not good. The stock market has been closed, and Russia's central bank has said they're not going to honor any ruble-denominated debt. USA sanctions are stopping Russian conglomerates from raising money in the US markets. In the US, Citigroup has one of the largest Russian exposures of any US bank, about $10 billion, including corporate and consumer loans, cash at the central bank, securities and investments. Under severe stress scenario, half of this, $5 billion, could be lost to Citigroup. Visa and MasterCard are looking at potential problems in terms of processing on their network. Roughly $1.2 billion of Visa's annual net revenue, about 4%, comes from Russia and 1% from Ukraine. For MasterCard, it's $1.1 billion, 4% from Russia and 2% from Ukraine. When we look at this particular map, this red shaded area is Russians taking over various parts of the Ukraine, and these red highlighted areas are already claimed by the Russians, or should I say really Vladimir Putin. The EU is expected to grant blanket protection for 870,000 Ukrainian refugees. Russia seized Kherson, which is just around this particular area. That's a city of 300,000 people northwest of the Crimean Peninsula. Ukrainian forces retreated towards a nearby city. Russian troops continue to lay siege against Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. It's home to 1.5 million Ukrainians. And we're getting a lot of reports that Russian troops are actually increasingly targeting civilians. Russian forces took control of Europe's largest nuclear energy plant inside Ukraine. And the US has delivered hundreds of Stinger anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine for the first time over the last few days, including over 200 on Monday. It's really important to draw a distinction between Vladimir Putin's actions and the Russian people. They're not the same thing. This is Putin's war, and it's being increasingly called as such. In terms of business blockades, and all of this news is just from today, the plane maker Airbus halted the supply of spare parts and support services to its customers in Russia in response to the international sanctions. Boeing suspended major operations in Russia. Oracle, the software firm, suspended operations in Russia. Apple removed 2 Russian state news sites from the App Store. PayPal stops accepting new users in Russia. One piece of news that I think is really, really important is this particular one. We know that Russia's stock market is still closed, but in Moscow, the Bank of Russia is blocking foreign investors who hold tens of billions of dollars worth of Russian stocks and bonds from exiting after its invasion of Ukraine. Russian banks and companies have around $391 billion in outstanding external debt as of October the 1st. What we're actually seeing here, this could amount to technical default. This is something that could trigger a wave of panic across international markets. As we saw in China recently with Evergrande, when Evergrande announced that it wouldn't be paying any debt, that it couldn't afford to pay debt, there was a lot of issues that actually arose inside the global economy. This is the whole of Russia saying it won't honor debt. It's just something to be aware of. The other thing, you can see the Ukrainian refugees, some people going to Russia and some people fleeing to Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Moldova, and other Eastern European countries. We're looking at about 575,000 people just going to the left. We have our good friend, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and 3 other Democratic lawmakers on Wednesday urging the Treasury Department to ensure the cryptocurrency industry is complying with sanctions imposed on Russia. Senator Elizabeth Warren is expressing concern that these digital assets could be used to undermine US foreign policy goals. What's really interesting is Elizabeth Warren has targeted crypto. She's certainly got it in her crosshairs. Before, it was basically about terrorists running around being able to violate anti-money laundering laws. And the concept is Bitcoin and crypto are immutable public ledgers. That's got to be about the most dumb thing that any criminal could ever do, is to go onto a publicly accessible technology and try to wash money. There's a lot of forensic crypto companies that actually track down criminals. We've seen many politicians like Senator Elizabeth Warren attack crypto repeatedly under many guises. She's just hoping one actually sticks. But anybody who knows crypto knows that this is just absolute rubbish. Crypto is the most easily traceable and trackable thing. Russia has said that it's placing temporary restrictions on foreigners seeking to exit Russia assets. The World Bank has immediately halted all programs in Russia and Belarus. The World Bank loaned more than $16 billion to Russia since the early 1990s and around $308 million to Belarus. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, suspends visa-free travel to Ukrainian tourists. It was visa-free previously. The UAE has grown closer to Russia because of its oil. China is refusing to implement sanctions and will use a swift rival cross-border interbank payment system to try and actually navigate Russia around these sanctions. North Korea, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela are on side with Russia. South Korea, Japan, Singapore, and Australia have agreed to implement sanctions against Moscow. There will be a vote on Thursday where the European Union could offer Ukrainians fleeing the conflict up to 2 years residency and work status. The US is to freeze and seize assets of Russian elites, and Germany has already done so. In Hamburg, authorities seized a Russian billionaire's 512-foot yacht. In the UK, as a result of sanctions, Chelsea Soccer Club owner, a Russian elite, has agreed to sell Chelsea Soccer Club. The European Union is giving 10 days before it excludes 7 Russian banks from the SWIFT messaging system, but it's excluding Sberbank, Russia's largest lender, and Gazprom Bank. It's going to allow them to stay connected to SWIFT because they are main channels for payments of Russian oil and gas. The Polish Prime Minister was very unhappy with this, and he said that's completely unacceptable. It's also important to understand that the Ukraine is very large in terms of oil and gas. When you see the concentration of resources throughout the Ukraine, this gives you a bit of an indication as to where the oil fields are, the gold fields, and there's many other potential very valuable resources inside Ukraine. Unfortunately, there's always conflict. It just occurs all around the world. Japan had to scramble its fighter jet Wednesday to warn off a helicopter believed to be Russian after the chopper entered Japanese airspace. This occurred around Hokkaido. This is the third such incursion. The first incursion was in 2008, the second incursion in February 2013, and the third incursion just today. Tokyo's defense minister linked the incursion near the northern island of Hokkaido to Russian military drills taking place in the nearby sea of I don't even know how to pronounce that. Okhotsk. This is the particular sea, and please let me know in the comments how I would actually pronounce that. It said, for example, the Tokyo Minister of Defense said that Russia has stepped up activity in the region since February in apparent coordination with the buildup of forces near the Ukraine that preceded Russia's invasion of its neighbor on February the 24th. This could be quite concerning. We'll just need to keep our eye on it. That's why I raised it for you today. On February the 15th, the defense minister said a total of 24 Russian warships had been operating in the Sea of Japan and the southern part of the Sea of Okhotsk since the beginning of that month, and in part what he termed unusual large-scale military exercises. The Sea of Japan is just here. That's where the 24 Russian warships were. If you dig a little deeper into this, you can see for the past around 77 years, nearly 80 years, these Kuril Island chains have been under siege in terms of a disagreement between Russia and Japan. Russia occupies these islands, but Japan wants them. It's a very contorted history. There's Itarafu Island, Kanishia, Shikotan, Habumai here, and you can see just how close these islands are to Hokkaido Island. After reading the very contorted history of these particular islands, it could go either way in terms of the Russians owning them or the Japanese owning them. You would think from a pure geographical perspective that Japan would have the rights to these islands because it's so close to Japan. That island chain is just down here, and you can see Russia is up here. It's just something to keep our eye on. When looking at outside trends as a crypto technical analyst, we just have to stack probabilities. You can see that judging from these different graphs, there's a lot of global uncertainty, but there's an enormous amounts of increasing fear. The VIX doesn't usually do things like this. This is elevated fear over an elevated period of time, and it's not coming down. And we can see that reflecting out on gold. We saw a very big jump up in bond prices as well, and economic confidence is still under duress. We're not out of the woods yet. An incredibly important rule is Rule 45. No alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity. Bitcoin literally controls the crypto market, and fear and greed control Bitcoin. So when we see highly elevated areas of greed, we expect upward prices. When prices come down, people go into extreme fear. This particular crypto fear and greed index can give a bit of a representation as to what is happening in the market. We've seen a big increase in optimism, big increase in greed, followed by some fear. And that is how things work. Prices always moving in a wave. We could actually be at the start of Bitcoin turning around, even though there's so much crisis in the world at the moment. We just trade the charts, but we need to look more deeply into this to see if it's a real move or it's a fake move. We're always stacking probabilities as crypto technical analysts. What we find when open interest starts to decrease, we see decreases in price, but not always, but is generally the probability. When we see things just falling off a cliff, that tends to coincide with big movements down. We've seen a bit of a divergence here. We're seeing prices come up, rallying strongly, but open interest coming down, but starting to get to a level where it might start to increase. With KS Zone analysis, the 4 stages that all investors and traders progress through to become consistently profitable and keep their money, basically Zone 1 and Zone 2, the panic and the blame zones, that's all about people wanting certainty. They want black and white answers for things that are all grey. That's why we must stack probabilities. You actually just kind of get a scoreboard. That's why we go through all of this analysis to see how the market is going. And if you join us each day, you'll find you get a greater and greater feel for the market as well as keeping up with all the global news that's relevant to crypto. If we look at Bitcoin liquidations, we're not really seeing a lot. We're seeing pretty much normal stuff. We're not getting any big spikes up. This means we've got fairly low trading volume at the moment. And you can see just how low it is when you zoom out. Look at that. It's basically a blip. We know that no alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity, and Bitcoin is the undisputed leader of the crypto market. Bitcoin has what's called directional correlation with the alts. For example, if Bitcoin goes up, the alts will go up, but generally a much greater increase in price in terms of percentage terms. If Bitcoin comes down, the alts will also come down, but in a much greater percentage terms. Sometimes about 1% of the alts will move in direct violation with Bitcoin's price action. That's because they can be overridden because of their own particular fundamentals. But everything will come back to a technical stance. That's why it's called gravity. The one thing that we see here at the moment is it looks as if Bitcoin is starting to recover. Now, why do I say that? We can see Bitcoin has been making a series of higher lows and holding this particular support line. Support lines are like a fence. They just basically fence price in. We can see that we had a massive movement upwards. And what's actually fascinating, we got this particular upward movement when the peace talks failed between Ukraine and Russia, when Vladimir Putin sent more troops in, when Putin threatened the world with nuclear war, and the US expelled Russian diplomats. We do know that there's a lot of resistance between this 45,000 mark and 47,000, and that's absolutely what happened to Bitcoin. It came up to that 45,000 approximately 100 mark and then backed off. When you actually encounter resistance in terms of price will generally pull back, gather momentum and push through. That's what typically happens, but it can hit the resistance and collapse down to regain its strength at a lower level. This does actually look constructive in terms of Bitcoin's price action. We're starting to get out from a level of resistance, but we're under another level of resistance. And we always know price always moves in a wave. It's always going up and down, up and down, up and probably down. Let's have a look at this particular price action. If we see this resistance, we can see Bitcoin was getting above it. I'll just give you a little bit of a TA lesson. What happens? We're getting above, oops, we're going down, no, we're going up, no, we can't, and we go down. Why is this? Because actually there was another level of resistance that was playing up higher. We never got to the second band of resistance. There were too many sellers selling down. Even this looked good. For example, it looked like, wow, price is going to go for it. We're broken out. We've beaten the trend line. Fantastic. Support, resistance has turned to support. Everything is good. But that's not actually the way it worked. What we saw is that we couldn't take out this particular resistance line. And so what happened? We went down. And then we really went down. And we were maintaining this once resistance line was turning to support. These are the things that we're aware of as crypto technical analysts. And then what happened? Don't forget, up here it looked like things were good, but this is why we must pay attention to resistance lines. Even in through here, we overcame a level of resistance. We got a bit of a kick up, but it still gravitated down. What is happening now? We can see that the market has been forging out some stronger paths. That's probably more easily seen by this. And as we go forward, it was looking pretty good. We were almost taking out a resistance line and going for it. But this is the nature. Just because we cross a resistance line doesn't mean the price can hold above. Always bear this in mind. That's why we say the price is negatively biased and you can always buy lower. Rule 307, excitement is a delayed fill. This is the philosophy that we apply to crypto. Going further forward, we see we lost that particular support. We were under resistance here. Price came down, held a level of support through here, and is being trundling along there quite well. We had a short liquidation, a massive push inside the market, and we came up to resistance. Now we're hitting resistance levels. What could price potentially do? What we're looking at as crypto technical analysts is to understand how price relates to these lines. They're like fences, and the price is like Percy, Bitcoin Percy, the magnetic price sheep. Magnetic because when we see a particular price escape one paddock and roam into the next one, the magnet is always back to the fence that was crossed. So what do we see here? Price coming back to that fence. Will it blow through it and come back to this one, or will it go down further? Will it hit it inside a cradle and push up through this resistance? These are the questions that we always ask ourselves, and you know that there's no certainty inside crypto. If you're seeking a simple solution, it will go to X dollars. It will do this by this date. You're stuck inside zone 1 and zone 2, and those are the zones that lose money. The key is to get inside zone 3 as quickly as possible. And when we look at this zone analysis, these are the 4 stages that every single trader and investor goes through to become a professional. One thing that you might like to think about is that it's only 13.58% away from a reinforcing of this support line, and we do have support at the $38,000 mark as well. We have quite a bit of resistance here, so price does need to do some accumulation. Price action needs to gather sufficient momentum to push through it, and we've seen sometimes that momentum is just not enough, and we see these downward movements. Please don't be conned by an upward price movement like this. Many people are, and when they get into the market, they see a big green bar and say everything is fine now, it's all over, no problem anymore. And what happens is that they get sucked into the market and these red bars come out and take them out. Please just have a degree of patience. And that doesn't mean you can't participate in the market. You can always participate. What you do is just do what is right for you. I believe in participating in the crypto market, absolutely. Professional traders and investors all do technical analysis, and they do it to varying levels of effectiveness and efficiency. One thing that I've seen time and time again over the 3 decades plus that I've been inside financial markets, it's always the line you didn't draw that gets you. As the Masterclass students know, there's quite a few lines of resistance above the current price, and this particular line dates back quite a while. We can see that this resistance line playing through here actually relates to these twin peaks here. We can also see that around 41,568 we have a support line from those previous peaks playing down into this area. As we see, the price of Bitcoin is currently 43,786. There's a lot of global tension at the moment, so we just can be aware that we could get some negative price momentum. And what we see is that there are various support levels inside the market. One particularly good one is 41,568, and 38,004 is also another really good one. We understand that we've got a lot of upward resistance from that 45,092 mark to 47,127. Price is always repairing itself, and Bitcoin has an incredible future. There is no doubt about it, but always be aware that this volatility, this extreme price swings, they always exist in crypto, and that's why we make, as crypto technical analysts, we make volatility our best friend. We want it. We seek it out. One important factor that you should always keep your eye on is Bitcoin's gravity. That's that blue line here. We can see for Ethereum is covering Bitcoin's gravity. They're moving with the same directional bias. Binance Coin, Bitcoin is moving more strongly than Binance Coin at the moment. XRP, basically following Bitcoin's gravity, but moving more weakly. ADA, moving more weakly than Bitcoin's gravity. And there is always a gravitational pull, so always be aware that when particular projects, for example ADA and Sol, they're both moving below Bitcoin's gravity. When gravity kicks in, they will actually make up this gap when it happens, and we just need to wait for that to occur. When we look at AVAX following Bitcoin's gravity and a slight divergence here, what we've seen is AVAX selling down much more than what Bitcoin is doing, and Luna has been on an absolute tear. It was very much under Bitcoin's gravity, but when it took off, it really took off, and there were a lot of in crypto news that actually drove that as well. I'd just like to share a special bonus with you. I've identified 16 very strong cryptos that I wanted to put on your radar. One is Luna, one is SYS, SYS, another one AVAX, Gala, Sand, Sol, ILV, and Nia. That's the first 8. Going on from there is Atom, Mana, Axie Infinity AXS, Rose, LRC, IoTex, Harmony One, and Arweave, AR. This is just a special bonus. Just maybe keep these on your radar and see how they play out. Crypto Technical Analysts, subscribe to Real Wealth and maintaining a positive excellence life trend. That's all about integrity, decency, kindness, inner and outer peace, but also the strength side of that, which is strength and boundaries, courage and honor, fearlessness. Of course, our focus is on the science of money. Money is simply a neutral commodity. Good people do good things with money. Bad people do bad things with money. It's just people. That's why we focus on integrity and decency. Integrity is choosing your thoughts and actions based on values rather than personal gain. Decency is all about respect and manners and actually honoring other people as unique human beings. I hope you found the content useful. Please consider sharing and liking this video if you think it will help others, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to our moderators for keeping our community safe from scammers, and the CTKS ambassadors for mentoring masterclass students. And of course, a very big thank you to you for watching and being part of our global KS family. If you would like daily updates on price movements in the crypto market 7 days a week, 365 days a year, please subscribe to YouTube. I've left helpful links in the description of this video, such as the link to the CryptoTradingKS Masterclass. Please seek out an ambassador to get 80% off. They're listed on the website in the link in the description of this video. Please remember, crypto is volatile. Always prepare yourself for the best and worst case scenarios. Reality will likely be between them. Stay safe out there, my friends. Take care and see you next time. Bye for now.